Courtney Butler.
Joe Gibbs here.
Steve O'Neill here. I'll do
Maria
the official duties.
Marasco via Zoom.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, guys.
You're feeling better.
Thank
All
you.
right. This is to formally advise that as required by Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 21, as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee will hold a public meeting, on Tuesday, November 28th at 4 p.m. at the town hall offices, 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth. Public is welcome to attend, either in person or via the alternate public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the town of Yarmouth website.
Hi, apologies.
No problem. We just got started. So first item up on the agenda is Maria's here too. Maria's zoomed in. Special event program, the 2024 award recommendations. This isn't go over the recommendations anymore. It's really just a matter of going over the material that we all said we'd work on afterwards. And before it went anywhere, just send it off for you all to take a look at. It was really just the paragraphs that describe the projects in a little more detail than we have in the past. So unless you have any questions or want to put some edits to any of those things, we'll just agree that everything's okay as we voted on at our last meeting on October 24th. Everyone okay?
Yep.
Joe Gibbs?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I may say is just, on the spreadsheet, maybe just St. Patrick's withdrew it. So rather than not awarded, is that they withdrew their application
Never completed the process.
or
Why don't I just, all right, St. Patrick's Day Parade, withdrawn in the applicant column.
Perfect.
Okay, we okay then? So the next step-
6,500 has a period instead of a
Oh,
comma.
thank you. Where's,
On page 3.
Good catch.
Seriously?
I
Yeah,
Well,
know.
that's what the map.
way to go.
Top, so I when I opened it, that was what I could see.
Good job.
Are you okay with everything?
I didn't even see that.
Okay, so okay. So you gotta have the next step then would be just to do a cover memo with this attached and you'll ship it off.
I think it's fine as
Where it
it's,
is?
it's formatted as a memo.
Okay,
So we'll just take draft off, make the edits
okay,
you just pointed out and send it across the hall.
good, excellent. Yeah, good process. Thank you for everyone on that. Maria and Joe too, thank you. Doing the extra work on it. So the next thing I just wanted to kind of segue into it is just this town manager and I had a phone call back a few weeks ago relative to this whole thing, and he got a letter. He got a phone call from Desmond from the parade committee. He responded via an email, and I think you all were copied on that, so just want to make sure you all saw it. There's some things in there that I didn't necessarily agree with, but long and short of it is the management asked the assistant town manager and asked me to prepare a letter back to the town manager relative to the St. Patrick's Day parade application or lack thereof. And so he took a stab at that. Actually, I didn't. You parents took a stab at it, yeah. And so before we shipped it out, I just want to make you all sure you all saw it, and if you had any questions on it, again, in the spirit of cooperation here. Make sure you all saw it. Maria, if you have any questions on that letter,
No,
me as chairman of this committee to the town manager, town administrator. If not, then I guess we're okay, we'll
Yeah.
go off the money. I think we did, not to pat ourselves on the back, but yeah, pat ourselves on the back, I think we did a good job, we handled it very professionally. And I think it worked out very well. I think the recommendations that we came up with too, a good split between community development and economic development projects, and I think it's everything that we did is consistent with the charge that we have, but also the legislation that governs the use of the money. So I want to thank everyone for that. Great work. You know, it'll get even better next year. It's the process streamlined. Right. And in regards to that, I know we talked a little bit about, yes, I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Before you finish, move on to the next thing. Karen, what's the update on that? Is there ongoing conversations or is it done?
On what?
The back
The
and
parade?
forth?
I'm not aware. I don't know that it's finalized or not.
Okay, thanks.
I mean,
I haven't gotten, I mean, all I can tell you is I haven't gotten any additional communication.
yeah, the way it was described to me, that the manager wanted, the town administrator wanted something just to have in the event anything came up relative to the process.
Okay,
So,
so our recommendations will be in a consent agenda item for next meeting. When's that
That's
meeting?
what I would
gonna be?
expect. That's next Tuesday. December 5.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
so that takes care of, well, there is one on special events program. And we talked at our last meeting, we talked about I'll defer to you a little bit. Joe, talked a little bit about having a group come together to help us streamline the process a little bit more.
Yeah, I think kind of the idea was to have maybe like a workshop, so something a little more informal, where we could have a little more open discussion with any of the applicants to, you know, to get some input from the other side, how we can improve this. And maybe even see what needs might be coming down the road, you know, if there's something we haven't seen that we might be able to have a better idea. At least to solicit the feedback from them on how to improve the program, because we kind of just go through the process and, you know, now that we can take a breath is, you know, how do we make it better for next year and going forward and, you know, see what their concerns are, or see where, you know, we just look at it maybe from one side, but they're looking at it from a different side. So it's nice to see that point.
So this
That's all.
will just be the applicants themselves, or we open it up to?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, generally, I think we can have you know, just have a meeting that's maybe, you know, like I think the selectmen do it, they have the workshop, they go over like the Simpkin School or whatever, and I think that's where they did their last one, and, you know, it's an open meeting, anybody can come, but I would just say we invite any of the applicants or past applicants, or, I mean, we could say anybody that was thinking about doing something in the future too. I mean, if it's just kind of like a round table, how to, you know, we're looking at revamping the program. We'd love to get input on, you know, maybe what people have thought has gone well, what hasn't maybe gone as well. You know, how can we streamline? How can we make things maybe more, you know, do we need to better define things, which, you know, maybe we do, if that's helpful for them, you know, maybe less defining things is, you know, just see the other side of the fences.
Any thoughts, comments? It's something that we could do prior to the close of this year, this calendar year, or do we want to wait till next year? Or that's A, and then B is, you know, where do we want to have it? Who's gonna
I have some thoughts.
go for it?
I think we should define it a little bit more. I think we
Okay.
should do a little bit more work before we take it to anywhere.
Right.
Joe and Maria have done a lot of work. I think we can identify the core issues. For me, it comes down to sustainability needs to be a bucket that we have to define. It is minimum and maximum award amounts. It is length of perpetual awards and how that tapers or doesn't taper percentage wise. I think we all sort of know the subject matter. I wouldn't want to go into an open meeting without a clear agenda on points of discussion to decide on, because it could, I don't know, it'll just be, we've already spent, I don't know how many meetings on tourism preservation funds, and it looks like we'd be spending 2 or 3 more meetings on it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'd just like to get to it down and dumb it down into one page and move on. It's gonna be X. You're never gonna get more than this. You're never gonna get more than this many years. It's gonna decrease by percentage over the next however many years of term. Issues are there.
No, and I think maybe we could look at profits differently than nonprofits potentially, as far as like, especially the length of funding.
Yeah, maybe the
and,
types of events get
percentages, like, you
different
know,
tracks.
maybe we only want to fund X% of your total budget. Maybe more specific
Right.
of what we want to fund.
And then there's the whole police, fire, EMT conversation. But other than that, those 5, 6 items that we would want to go in there with an agenda to come out of it with decisions. That would be my suggestion.
If we know what all the questions are gonna be, do we think it would be more productive to just send them an email, like a form kind of thing, like a review form?
Survey?
Yeah. Some may not respond, but
I would
those
love-
that are upset would
Yeah.
just, they would be the ones that would have, like,
Survey monkey type of thing.
Yeah,
sure,
we
or
could
a Google
develop a
form
survey.
or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. Just to
And
get
make a
their
big
feedback
comment
on it,
box.
yeah.
I mean, we've been in this position before where they've tasked us to be a committee and make these kinds of decisions. And Joe and Maria did a lot of work. And Maria's got her hand up, Steve.
Maria?
Yeah, I think in the last draft that I put in there, I actually highlighted where the points of discussion. Where I thought the
like
points of
that.
discussion were, so we gotta go, if we can revisit that. I think it highlights all the things that you just said, Joe, that we discussed, because I said, you know, here's my sample. And then along those topics, there was like, so how does the board want to handle it? How does the board want to handle it? So anyway, I think I have a working copy of that, so.
Is the cord there?
That's,
No, but I need the input.
what's this?
Yeah. I sent it to you.
Can you guys not hear me?
No,
Yeah,
not well.
Sort of can.
Oh,
Try
okay,
and make it a
Hold
little
on.
louder.
I can call in if you need me to.
No, that.
Anyway,
no.
my point
That'd
is,
be
I
good.
think I already did the heavy lifting. You have a document in front of you and all we need is input from all of you in order to narrow it down what you want to talk to the public at large about.
Where your microphone is. Go to that, yeah, to the little arrow. See if we can- So select a speaker up top. You want to do whatever. I guess it's the TV one at the next block. Select a speaker.
Okay,
Your micro-
sorry,
y-
thank you.
Yeah, I think one of those will probably help you. Maria, try that.
Maria, would you try just saying hello again?
Hello.
there you go.
There, success. Thank you, thank you,
You're
Courtney.
welcome.
So Maria, I think she just said that she had sent us information that kind of addressed. So
I
if we can
sent
get,
you a sample
yeah,
that actually highlighted those topics that Joe just went through. How do you want to handle it? How do you want to handle it? I
But Maria-
basically gave you a running start, as I recall, and I'll try to find it.
Yeah, that was, Maria, this is Karen. That wasn't in the material that you forwarded yesterday.
no.
Okay, then I know I
Oh.
had sent it somewhere before, so
Okay,
let me dig and I'll send it again.
okay.
I
Excuse
think
me.
it was seen at the meeting that we were at the water department.
Over at DPW.
W.
I feel like that was when we saw her comments
Mhm,
on it.
Mhm.
Okay,
I think you're right, because that was like our.
I mean,
first one,
I-
Wasn't it?
Steve, I would
Yeah,
even
it's a
suggest that we go in with some recommendations and have that be the points of discussion. The committee wants to do this for sustainability, do this for awards, do
Okay.
this for nonprofit versus profit, do this, do this, do this, do this. This is what we want to do, and we're here to talk about it.
You said go into the board of selectmen, yes,
Go into this workshop.
okay, this workshop.
Like, in my experience, it's always like, come in with a draft
Yeah, right,
instead of us spending 45 minutes doing all the work that's already been done with a new set of eyes, a new
Okay.
set of people.
agree.
I think one big question too, if I may, is
Go
that,
ahead.
we've talked about trying to maybe divide it up as far as maybe breaking it into different timeframes. Now I'm still having a hard time how to do that best but it has been a discussion. Maybe it's not, I don't know how to do it is the question, but I know we talked about trying to get money out earlier for some of these earlier events and later for some later events, but I just don't know. I don't know that it's as easy as saying half for this 6 months and half for that 6 months.
But we've-
It's hard.
So we're
So,
gonna address that by making these awards finite and reducing them by a percentage potentially, because if you come in once, you're gonna be able to plan for 5 years. Like if the award term is 5, you're only gonna get 5 years of money from us. $10,000 down to 2,500, as an example. Well, then you've got 5 years of running room to plan all you want, because you know in year 2, it's gonna be 7,500, in year 3, it's gonna be 6 grand, in year 4, it's gonna be 4 grand, in year 5, it's gonna be 2,500. So that seasonality thing won't apply. Right?
No,
Am I way off?
potentially, I mean, I don't.
Because I mean, we're talking about making bigger awards and a bigger commitment, talking about giving people 5 years of running room, but maybe that only applies to new events. Ones that we're trying to help get established.
Right, and I think we need to look at whatever the procurement rules are too, as far as making any commitment, how far in advance we could. I mean, I think we could say that it's gonna go down, you know, whatever your first grant's gonna be, is gonna be the highest, it's gonna go down, but. I don't know if we can guarantee.
You can't make a contract
For money that we
using
don't
funds
have
that you
yet.
don't have yet. You have to wait. So that's why kind of usually contracts that might be renewable say subject to available funding. So,
But I mean,
Courtney?
I mean, I think this should all is all stuff that needs to be talked about then.
can
I
I,
think there's there's so much to talk about at this workshop. We need at least 2 hours and there's just a lot that needs to be discussed. Like all of this is stuff that I'd want to break down then.
I mean, we could have a workshop that we don't necessarily invite anybody. I mean, it's still an open meeting that anybody can come to. But maybe we do 2 or something, one that's where we could sit down and throw papers everywhere and look at
Yeah,
everything.
I
And
think.
then one that we actually, because a workshop, we can decide whether we want outside comment, right? A workshop.
So,
So
but,
we can do it without outside comment.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
just gonna
Right.
do our thing and then we.
Yeah, for
can-
one of the wastewater ones, the very beginning,
Yeah.
at the Station Ave.
Then we could do another one that we actually
Yeah.
ask people for solicitation. I mean, they're all open meetings, anybody can come,
Yeah.
but then there's no debate or discussion outside of our group. Maybe that's the thing to do is to,
I'd rather meet with us first and hear all of our stuff than bring these people in and have them try and dictate. But well, I think it's important to hear what we all want to see
Okay.
and talk about. And like I've researched a ton of other towns and stuff too, so I'd want to talk about all that.
okay, so, one meeting of us, our group, to talk just about this, Karen. Do we want to do it before the end of the year or do we want to wait until next year? I'm open, I don't,
I can't take any more tourism money. That's this year, I'm done.
okay, you're cooked.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so sometime next year,
Yeah,
all right. And then following that, we come up.
I'm sorry, let me take that back.
That's all right, you're only on camera, and
I'm just being honest.
it's not candid camera either.
We did say that we would want to take this to the select board in January to get some
Yeah,
direction. So. yes.
I'd suggest that you might consider one December
Mhm.
meeting. Also because I'll get a estimate on the tourism fund for FY 25. And it'll be a conversation about how you wanna,
okay,
that's your kind of pre-town
Mhm.
meeting.
Mhm.
Bucket list.
Pre-town meeting warrant
okay,
discussion, and that's where you will go in to see the
Hello,
select.
guys,
before-
guys,
yes, you're up.
just like to remind everybody that Joe and I did much of this heavy lifting a while back again. And we came up with a proposal that you asked us to provide you. So
Yep.
my thought is that you start with what Joe and I proposed and work off of that, because we really did listen to everybody's comments and tried to pull
two
them.
people who
into
weren't on the
one.
committee at that point, but yeah,
Well,
Well-
that's what happens, but we.
I understand that, Maria. I'm just saying, we can use yours as a basis, but new people might have input too. So of
No,
course, we should
exactly.
start with yours as a platform and work
That's
off that. 'Cause
exactly-
It's the easiest way to go.
That's exactly what I said, Courtney. You're right.
And
Okay.
Steve, I'm happy to forward that out. And Maria, I'll forward that out and I'll forward out the other material that you sent earlier this week.
Do we want to look at a meeting date for this coming month then?
Not really.
That's, That was
Um,
my reaction, that's why I reacted.
I'm just
I'm
thinking
just thinking a second,
how much limited. we have.
the second week of December, because
When is
yeah.
it, the week of the 11th?
yes,
Work.
well, it's still fresh, relatively fresh in our minds. Does that work, Maria, for you? The second week in December, the week of the 11th through the 15th? Didn't ask you. Is that all right?
I don't know my calendar.
December 12th.
12.
December 12th, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that'll.
Yeah.
Joe?
Well, it's good for me. For the 12th.
Yes. 12.
Okay. I'll be driving back from Boston.
You can send us a invite on Outlook.
Yep.
Terrific. Okay. All right, then now give us some information to have for the meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah,
And if anybody wants to, so we'll have 2 items on that agenda. One will be the budget and one will be the,
tourism.
it'll be calendar 25 special events.
Right.
And then if anybody has material, that Courtney, you said you did some research and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I can.
If anybody has anything they want me to distribute, happy to do so.
Karen, do you have a sense of when the board meetings will be in January?
I don't.
All right,
I will look and let you know.
thank you.
All right, any other discussion on that? Thank you all. That's good. Good. Thank you. All right, do we have some committee member items?
I have one.
Go for it.
The bill H 3796, an act relative to Yarmouth tourism funding change to allow the revenue preservation fund to take in monies from local room occupancy tax, was signed into law by the governor on October 25th. So that is officially official.
Good, excellent.
So that reconciles all our books.
Danielle, anything?
Thank the rep for his work on that.
Oh,
Yes, thank you. Joe Gibbs, Joe Manning.
Did we skip over an agenda item?
No, with committee member items.
Oh, okay. Back to, we're gonna talk about future projects.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah,
I don't.
Do you want to finish committee member?
I don't have any committee member updates.
okay. I don't know where my meeting comes in then. Should I? My meeting with Bill Scott,
Future project discussion.
Okay. Go for it. Yeah, somehow I've got an old,
Maybe that's an old one.
yeah. Okay, sorry, Joe, go ahead. Go ahead. Go for it.
Want me to start?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, well, from my perspective, I'm just gonna download. It involves abandoned or underutilized property, storefronts. It involves Commonwealth places. It involves everything that we can avail ourselves with through mass development as a committee. That's plausible and logical and in line with our charge, excuse me. I think that
Everything up here. Let me-
yeah,
Yeah, let me jump back in.
All right.
Sorry about all that. This agenda, I got screwed up on the agenda here. I had the
No.
wrong- So, in any event, I, had a meeting with Bill Scott, the assistant manager, assistant administrator, back on the 16th of this month. And the meeting was for 2 purposes. One was to go over the parade committee, that whole process leading to the letter that we talked about a few moments ago. And the second part of it was the longer part of the meeting. And that had specifically to do with what this committee, in his eyes, should be doing going forward. And in that regard, he suggested to me that there were 4 things that we ought to be doing as a committee. And I told him that I, bring it back and to this committee and we'd have a discussion about it. He did say that he would submit something to Karen or this committee in a couple of weeks, which is around this time. But in any event, we have 4 things that he would like us to focus on. The first item he would really wants us to focus on is to have this committee play a bigger role in working with the Cape Cod Commission. And specifically, clearing a path, I think is the words he used, for prospective developers that would like to come to the Cape to initiate some development projects, but for having to deal with the Cape Cod Commission, being a very arduous process to get through and a lot of money to get through that process without actually seeing any benefits. And his idea was for us as a group would speak on projects that Yarmouth is in itself, but also maybe work with other communities, Barnstable, Howard, in pursuing Dennis and pursuing projects that, could benefit the commercial tax base in this town, but in other towns as well. So I did share with him my thinking at the time, and that was pretty much that I felt there's an awful lot of work for a part-time committee to do. But that I'd take it back to you guys and let you talk about it, and we talk about it and get back to him. But I do think, I'm the only one that's not working a full-time job, but I'm looking around the table here and I think everyone else is having a full-time job. So my point in saying that is it's going to be a big, big push and lift for this committee to do what he desires as I see it and as I understand what he was telling us. So I want to stop there, just let you stew that over a little bit, think about it, talk about it with me. And Karen's here. We can certainly work with Karen. She can get back to Bill on that. So
Steve, could you clarify what he meant by that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
does he
is-
want us to?
Change the way the commission, I just don't understand the charge. I don't think it's our place to be the ones to go up against them.
right. So it's not so much going up against them as being the vehicle, this committee being the vehicle to carry the water for the administration, more with the administration on a specific project to the Cape Cod Commission. So let's use as an example, work that might go on with within the district he has put forward. And he wants to bring in a hospital. Bill's always talking about bringing in a hospital. There's various permitting processes that developer would have to go through. And he would want us to engage and push and speak on behalf of that developer and or the town in support of the project before the commission. That's one part of it. And the other part would be, and I'm not quite sure how this all works because I see economic development be more competitive from town to town than working together. But he would like to see us work with other communities in pushing forward some ways of making it easier for prospective developers to come onto the Cape and not have to go through all these various permitting processes. So could that be streamlined? And if it could be streamlined, would someone present that to the Cape Cod Commission and would it be this group type of thing? Hi, Peter. That clarify it a little bit?
A little bit, and I have a follow-up. So advocacy for specific projects that he has in the pipe,
Yes.
what's being done to advocate for those projects right now?
I would assume that he's doing the advocation, especially around the grant, which we'll talk about in a moment, but I would assume that he's doing it.
Does he just mean, and I wasn't at the meeting.
No.
But maybe he just means helping to advocate and attend meetings and speak in front of the commission in favor of projects when they come up.
Yeah. But also he made it clear too, that there's impediments for prospective developers coming over the bridge who want to do some development. And those impediments need to be either done away with or streamlined to a point where it makes it more conducive for a prospective developer and a prospective project to come and do some business in the town.
So that's where that's where I'm in line with what Courtney was just saying. We
It's
are,
not us.
I mean. That to me is gonna do more harm for Yarmouth than good. If we start trying to take on the commission in a way to get them to change the way that they've operated for decades.
I'd like to more clearly see these impediments and permits that he's speaking to. I know the commission has some thresholds that when you hit them, you need to go to them, but not everything needs to go to them and not all the time needs to go to them. And I mean, they don't even clearly list on their website what permits they want you to do or how they want you to run a project. So, I mean, I think we start with ourselves in Yarmouth first, but we don't make regulations or policies in this committee. We make recommendations and we can, of course, you know, if there's something that we feel as a committee we want to support, we'll support it. But
Right.
I'm just not sure that this is the place for us to be putting our. It seems like diving into a big public-private partnership thing, which really goes up me sideways. I don't like that conflict and there's a certain level of public-private partnership, but like this seems a little bit like hand-holding to get it across the finish line, which I think it needs to be a real clear division of what's happening and what's being asked and what sort of support. I just get worried that somebody's going to come around and look and be like, look what Yarmouth is pushing through really hard without talking to anybody. And optics, I guess, is what worries me. I don't want to be seen as the group pushing stuff over that nobody heard about first, that nobody talked about first, that no public input was given on, and that Yarmouth is the one taking the commission to task. I'd love to hear other towns on this too, I guess. If they're all, but if it's really Yarmouth permits that are impediments, or if it's the commission's permits that are
Right.
impeding on people developing here.
Did he cite examples of projects that have failed?
No, it's just an overall 30,000-foot view from his perspective, what he sees this committee doing. And not to
Okay.
confuse the matter here, but what I did talk about in the meeting with him is that this group and as a whole is pretty much interested in doing some economic development projects for the town. And I said it once, I said it 3 times. We don't want to compete with what Bill's doing, especially with what he's doing with wastewater in terms of driving the projects into the diff, because the diff's going to help fund the wastewater, a portion of the wastewater project. But I did say that we want to do things that enhance what he's doing for the community. And I mentioned as examples, some of the work that we talked about last year, funding from the state was bringing more activity, street activity to the streets around the parks, engaging,
Which is,
other initiatives around the parks just to, incite and encourage people to attend the parks. As an example, I'll mention that pickleball was a big thing that's up and coming. And these type of things need some resources, and there's things that we can look at toward the state to help fund these resources, in addition to leveraging our tourism reservation dollars. And it was very clear, he said to me, no, he doesn't want us doing it. So we have a point of discussion that I want you to think about. If we don't come to some agreement tonight, then we should sooner or later, but it's clear that he wants us to go one direction. And what I think, at least from what I've gathered here from prior meetings, is this group wants to do a little bit more than just talk about economic development projects to a commission, but also not be able to do some of the things that we want to do that would enhance economic development for the community. And quite frankly, I looked at the charge again
Just point.
before our meeting today. What I was talking to him about is very consistent with what our charge is.
exactly.
So I don't know what the dilemma is. The other thing I to be honest and fair about it, and Karen, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think part of where Bill's coming from is that there's not necessarily the staff here to do some of the things that we want to do. So I think that's where he may be coming from. So I didn't get into the staffing and all with that. I just said, look, I want to take it back to the committee, see where we want to go with this thing. But quite frankly, some of the projects that we're talking about, I don't think it's going to require a lot of staff time. Some of us have done grant work in the past, you know, we could do some of that ourselves. I know you're busy and tied up with a lot of work that you're doing, Karen, so this is no reflection upon you whatsoever. It's just that you need some help. We tried to get that the last time and it didn't work out so well, so open for discussion. I don't know if we're gonna come to any closure today, but I wanted to at least get this out on the table.
But you said
Right.
Bill indicated he was going to follow up with you in writing?
Right,
or-
right. It was gonna be
Yeah.
2 weeks,
Because
the 2
it's
weeks.
kind
2
of
weeks
nice
is
to hear
tomorrow.
directly from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see what
Yeah.
he's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't leave us a lot of room. Well, it leaves us too much room actually to speculate on it.
Right.
I, for one, think that it's a good idea if he's bringing developers, if he's courting developers and then bringing them to our committee to enlist our support in advocating for that project, I absolutely think that that is absolutely what he should do.
Agreed.
I don't know necessarily that this committee needs to go on a roadshow off Cape to try to court developers. But I don't see that being our purview. But if he needs someone, if he needs a voice or a committee to get behind a project that he's bringing it, he wants to bring into town, absolutely 100%. He'll have my support. But
First of all, guys, no one person can act on their own. And before anybody can represent the town, we would have to vote collectively on a project. That means that we would have to understand the project soup to nuts before we accept it. Thirdly, Cape Cod Commission, the issue here is that they have jurisdiction over any project that's over 10,000 square feet. The type of projects that build that are actually going to make any difference in the diff is over 10,000 square feet. That's a fundamental issue that the town needs to wrestle with, what they tried to do in 2014 when they wanted to withdraw for the commission. That's way beyond what we've been asked to do. And then the last point is this is definitely a staff, as far as I'm concerned. The staff needs to go before the Cape Cod Commission and advocate for those projects, which has been vetted by all the departments before we even get involved. So there you go. That's my 2 cents.
Okay,
Did he mention anything? I mean, about filling the open position that's been what open?
no, I don't know what
over a
the,
year?
do you have any update on that?
I have no update.
I mean, they've had a position, they just haven't.
Well, I don't know,
forward.
I don't know, if
Oh,
Karen, maybe you can get some information on that. There is a communication, new staff person now.
There's a new communications manager, but that's not the economic development coordinator position. And I think that the economic development coordinator position job description was going to be revised and work in concert with Bill. So.
Okay,
by
So-
the way, I got one more point. This committee has in the past, I believe, advocated for zones in which the Cape Cod Commission does not have jurisdiction. Karen, I believe there is a list. There's up by, oh gosh, I don't really want to overspeak, but I do believe the town has already approved a zone in which the Cape Cod Cape Cod Commission's jurisdiction does not reach. And
We
I
have-
think that we would have the ability to advocate with the planning board those zones that we might want to add to that list. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have something called a growth incentive zone that applies to the motel properties on Route 28. The growth incentive zone was established and has been renewed, going all the way back to probably 2008. Maria, you're correct. So the way the regional policy plan is written, we can once we have a certified local comprehensive plan, which is the primary job right now in front of the planning board and other town departments and other committees and that kind of thing. Once you have the certification, you can petition the Cape Cod Commission to revise thresholds in certain areas as long as you meet certain requirements. So we're on a strong
it gives
track.
us from like Pancake Man to,
The growth incentive zone is, it by definition needed to be a contiguous area, but the regulatory benefit only applies to motel properties that were in existence when the growth incentive zone was originally adopted. So there's no threshold benefit for the properties that might be part of that contiguous area that weren't motels. It's an unusual growth incentive zone when you compare it against Hyannis, where they have, I think that the way the Hyannis growth incentive zone works is they may be asked for some aggregate number of square feet that they can allocate to projects as they see fit. Ours was very different.
We were coming out of the hotel ban, right?
It was coming out of the hotel ban. The idea was we had a number of motel properties that was identified as the economic development priority, that we wanted to provide additional opportunities for them to redevelop as motels or as housing or as mixed use.
Yeah.
And so we went through the growth incentive zone process, established some thresholds around what's allowable. So the growth incentive zone was 2008. The motel bylaw, which originally included the ban, and then the ban was lifted, that was in 2006. So that predated.
That was one of his 4 points.
Yeah, so that was the first one. I know more discussion on.
Welcome for the history.
No, that's good. That's
that's
helpful.
good.
I
I
didn't
think
get any.
the only way that we can respond is if we know exactly what exists within the town and the responsibility between the town and the commission. And then also the planning board it's really
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the response to Bill is that, well, you know, I'm thank you for wanting to get us to get more involved. However, you know what, in order for us to respond to you, we believe we have a narrow charge, and we'd like to work with what the town has already established and what we could enhance. And that really comes to the GIZ, the growth incentive zones, and the carve outs that we could recommend. Ultimately, I believe is to the planning board, and then the planning board petitions the Cape Cod Commission. So
Yeah.
I get it. You guys, we're all struggling with a response, but unless we know exactly the fundamentals, it's kind of hard to give him a response.
Well, he did say, in all fairness to him, that he couldn't be here. He had another meeting preceding this one tonight. And that he would send something in writing to us in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks is Thursday. So hopefully we'll see something then that'll give us some more. But I do think we have something we can hang a hat on. And maybe that's looking at the zoning and coming up with the planning board ways that make it more attractive to get developers over the bridge to come here and look at. I do one other thing I want to know, and I think you said this already. If a developer comes in and wants to do some development in the town, he doesn't have to go to individual departments. You guys have a
Plan
Yeah,
review.
we have a
site
site
plan
plan.
review. Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I thought. So. All right. The other thing there was a couple other things he wanted us to look at. One is, we had a wayfinding, allocation, $50,000, I think it was years ago. Karen, I'm looking at you.
Mhm.
Was it 2 or 3 years ago? Maybe even longer,
No, I think it's just a year ago.
for tourism money, and nothing's been done with it. It was an RFP that was crafted, I think, but he did say he wants to look at that RFP again and beef it up, punch it up a little bit, and he'll come back to us with it when it's done. But he would like us to wrap our arms around that project and get that project implemented as we go forward. So,
So we're plussing that up because we've come
Yeah.
face to face with a bunch of different things that can
Right.
qualify as wayfinding over the
Right.
past year.
right,
Right,
Right.
so it's gonna get a bigger footprint.
right.
Okay.
Right. So, he said he'll get that RFP done, send it to us to, give it our blessing, and he'll advertise it, and then I guess we're gonna kind of bird dog it. I don't know if you're gonna be the staff person for that, or,
We'll find out.
yeah, we'll find out. By the way, so we don't know when that advertisement on that economic development.
I think
person-
that the job description, so the process is always, if you have a new job description, you have to craft it.
Yep.
Come to agreement on all the responsibilities.
Right,
And then you need to visit the personnel board to have the position graded and scaled with the salary, and then you go out to advertise.
okay. All right.
Definitely not posted.
Oh, it's not posted.
Yeah, my only thought for that is why I asked the question is, the wayfinding project, some of these other things that we want to do is, we know what we want to do, but are we gonna have a staff person assign tonight? Again, no disrespect your way.
No.
Just I don't know if we have the horses here to do all the work, so that's what I'm saying. So we got to keep that in mind too. The third thing I'm a little less clear on is he's talking about this, he wants a website. He wants for our committee to have a website. And on this website, one of the things that would be on there would be economic development statistics that are germane to developers or to the public. But again, I think we need to flesh that out a little bit more. I can't give you more than that. So it's just it's a website that our committee would put, again, I don't know what staff that.
Right.
And exactly what would go on that as far as economic development statistics. So, and then finally, he's got this economic development study that he talked about back in March that he's going to engage in. And he wants to give us, he wants us to give us our input on that. And that would be what type of development could go in where in the diff zones. So,
Not the one that we funded like a couple years ago.
yeah.
Has it been 2 years?
It's
at least a year.
like that, but I don't know.
It's been at least a year because we asked for the
That
update back
economic-
in May.
Development study to tell us what should go in the diff zone?
Yeah.
Same stuff.
What are the prime parcels to encourage for development, especially along the corridor on 28?
And we were gonna allocate some money towards that project, right?
We did allocate some of that.
I'm not gonna, I think you gave $75,000.
Yeah.
I think that there were three purposes. One was the diff, one was grant writing, and the other was economic development study.
Yeah.
And I think that the diff and the grant writing, I think grant writing was an aid for the MassWorks grant, which
Right.
Bill was successful in getting a $3.5 million grant. There is a small balance left there. It's around $25,000.
Yeah.
But you do have, and I'm just going off of memory, you have economic development projects. I think you have a current balance of $150,000.
Yeah.
In that neighborhood.
Does he have anybody in mind that he's gonna hire for that? Does he have some?
I don't, there's a certain step that I won't go past, that's in his court. I just want to know where we are in the whole thing, but threw a lot at you tonight. I don't know if we're gonna have answers for everything. I go back to, I want to do some other projects again, not to compete with what he's doing. Certainly, he's got a lot on his plate. And that means when I say compete, that we don't go after the same resources that he's going after to encourage development for the wastewater project. I think there are pockets of money out there that he would not go after because they wouldn't be eligible for him. So there's other pockets of money out there in the mass development state resources that we could go after that wouldn't compete with his funding sources.
To your point, Karen, about the MassWorks money,
Mhm.
we were precluded from submitting our Commonwealth Places grant last year because we were told that it was going to potentially compete against that MassWorks grant application. So,
And that's not true, Joe.
yes,
You're right.
so what happens? I know, Steve, you keep acknowledging the fact that staffing and staff support might or might not be an issue with regards to this stuff. But we were ready to go. There's a lot of bright people on this committee.
Yep.
All we needed
Yep.
was an ability to access the one-stop and press send with all the work that we had done. So, point of clarification I would want from the select board is if we set these priorities and we do all this work and we have these grants that we want to apply for, are we going to be able to see it through to the end, or are we going to be told that it's not a priority and we're not going to be allowed to send it?
Yeah, you raise a very good point, and the one I'm wrestling with all the time here, and as I look at the charge, and as I look at the tourism revenue preservation money, the regulations and the legislation, I should say. It clearly says here that we deal with the Board of Selectmen. So what I'm wrestling with is why we're told that we can't do projects that clearly come under our purview as a community development committee. So, and if the board says, yeah, you guys can go ahead and do some of these projects you're thinking about, then is that filtered back to the administration? I feel like I'm in this limbo here between the administration on the one hand and the Board of Selectmen on the other. And I know what it says in black and white in front of me, and yet I'm being told something different by the administration. So I guess we need some clarity on that. I hope we got all that down.
Hopefully that January meeting is gonna provide some clarity to
Yeah.
it, because I, for one, gonna be very clear and direct in that meeting, select board. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? We're just
Yeah, right.
expending a lot of time and resources. And
Well, like you just said, I think
disposable time.
there's a lot of
resources.
talent around the table, and just to be spending it, and no knock against the tourism revenue preservation fund. I think we do a great job, and the vendors do a fantastic job with the community on that. But I think with this talent around the table that's willing and able to do more, that we ought to be able to do more. So that's my 2 cents. I'll shut up.
So what else does anyone think of they want to work on this year?
Whatever happened to broadband? We had talked about broadband, had some meetings, and then it just kind of fell off the table. I mean, is it something that we still want to talk about, or?
The last time, I think you and I came on the board at the
Yeah.
same time that the IT Paul came on.
Yeah.
And he was drinking from a fire hose. I think those were exact words that when he presented to us. I know that since then, they've done some work to connect town buildings successfully, and I think that that's gone a long way in terms of efficiency and data sharing. But I don't know. I know that we talked about a pilot where we were looking at an area that would encompass some portion of 28, some portion of Swan Pond Village, some portion of that whole area that sort of satisfies all of the different demographics that you'd want a pilot program like that to test out. And correct me if Steve, you were here, Joe, you were here. I don't think Maria was here yet.
Nope.
But I think that was sort of where it was left.
So I think there's a lot of grant money currently now, federally wise, for broadband, and I know that they just met. I saw something where Verizon was looking for support for expanding FiOS, but they weren't specific about it.
Cape Cod Tech Council.
So, I mean, I think there's money out there, and I know, Open Cape's doing various things, expand, I know Falmouth they have their own broadband committee, and they're moving forward with a bunch of stuff too, so
That's kind of where
So-
we studied with we had some information that was submitted to us from the town of Falmouth as to what they were doing and where they were going with it. And as I recall, the prior town manager, town administrator, wanted to focus on educational and the public safety departments, getting them up and running first before he took on any other initiatives. Let me just say one other thing before I forget. I think you're right, Joe. To talk about, offer that up as an example. I think it's incumbent upon a couple of things. One is to get whatever we decide to do, we get buy-in from the town. And what I mean by that is, I just said a moment ago, I feel like I'm in between here. We need some buy-in from the Board of Selectmen, and we need some buy-in from the town administration if we land upon a project. So whether it's broadband or some of these smaller projects, we need to get that buy-in. Number two is, I think it's important for us, if we're gonna go this way, we wanna do these projects, we pick a couple of them that we know are going to be a success within a year or so, 12 months to 16 months, and not necessarily 24 or out months. Just to demonstrate that, we put our money where our mouth is, we can get these things done, so.
Just as a point to dovetail onto that, Steve, just reading directly, Committee will produce an annual work plan that is consistent with and relevant to the Board of Selectmen annual goals. And we report to the Town of Yarmouth Board of Selectmen, so it's really clear who we take our direction from.
Right.
And I don't know, in terms of buy-in from both sides.
Well, I think we need to come up with our work plan, and I think it's part of the presentation that we had made and then as amended by the new members. But it included the application of through mass development, Joe, the ones that you were going to work on. We have to have a letter of intent, expression of interest that's got to be filed. So I put, okay, I'm coming up with a work plan, proposed work plan. That goes on the top of our list. Gives us 3-4 months to get something ready and get the information and document it. The second thing is actually, if you want to do broadband, there's a town close to us that purposely is tapping into the spine, and they are recruiting businesses that are very highly dependent upon high-speed internet. So that includes architects and your medical facilities. So if we could bundle that, right? If you wanted to bundle broadband with this sort of also exempting certain zones from the Cape Cod Commission's reach. And that would be good. That would be our second thing. Identify those areas where we can bundle these and leverage a couple of different incentive packages. And then the fourth thing is, you know, we said we were going to tighten up our own tourism special event. I think that's our work plan, guys. So if you want to caucus among yourselves, seems to me that all these things we've talked about before, and it gives us a hit list that we can work off of.
And I'm sorry, Marie, but did you say that those projects that we talked about last year, some of the neighborhood initiatives around the parks were included in that hit list?
Yeah, I said it with the first one.
Okay.
Because we're up against a deadline, right, Joe?
Yeah.
What's the deadline? Was it May or
June.
June?
It's June. I think I don't know if they're open for letters of intent yet. I think it's in December is when it
Well,
opens.
Then we just have got to be ready. Just get it in as soon as possible.
Right.
Absolutely. And
So,
to what,
right.
just back to what Joe was talking about the broadband.
Yep.
I don't disagree with Maria that it would be very strategic for us to try to couple a couple of these initiatives together to sort of back into doing what Bill's talking about and making it easier for developers to consider Yarmouth. The Mass Broadband Institute gap funding is what you're talking about. Unfortunately, they go off of the FCC maps in terms of who's served and who's underserved, and Yarmouth is completely 100% served from their perspective. The MBI puts out a different map, and even in that, the only underserved communities that I've been able to discern from looking very hard is Truro, Wellfleet, parts of Martha's Vineyard, and Fairhaven in this particular geographic area. And it's largely because they get their data from Comcast and Verizon. And obviously they're going to say that they can provide, I think the threshold is 100 up and 20 down, or 20 up and 100 down, sorry. So it would be hard for us to satisfy the criteria for that particular grant in order to get the broadband money, that grant money to implement in that particular pilot area over there. But I still think there's other ways we can do it. I know that Open Cape comes right down 28. So they're always looking for ways to expand laterals.
Okay, so what's your,
Anyone else got anything they want
Yeah.
on?
don't let me and Joe.
Courtney, did you want to start a clown college over across the street?
I did actually, yeah. No, I think broadband super. I would love to hear at least once next year from the Barnstable Economic Development Council. I want to hear what they're doing up there. If Bill is so concerned with the commission and what's going on there, I wouldn't mind hearing from them what they're doing. There's a lot of players on that board, a lot of big players.
Okay,
Cape Cod 5, Love Live Local, Children's Place, they're all up there. What are they doing?
okay.
That's the only thing I think I'd like to hear from them. And it because it does say in our charge to, or at least on the website, that we work with local and regional partners and the regional economic council. So, yeah, I'd like to hear what they're up to.
I mean, we talked about things like green hospitality.
Yeah.
As a logical, plausible thing for the Cape to be good at. Why can't it be good at it in Yarmouth?
Right.
Where we teach motel and hotel owners how to run net zero
Mhm.
entities. And
Yeah.
have them come here in the shoulder season and take it back with them. I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff that we want to do, so.
I know, so we gotta whittle that down at some
Yeah.
point, right?
Absolutely.
And then decide how we want to proceed. Well, we have to get to the board of selectmen first, once we whittle a list down.
And I exactly to the point I made earlier, I don't disagree that we should come with a draft. Say, this is what we want to work on.
Right, exactly. Right. All right, so when do we want to finalize this list? Only kind of getting to that point because I want to be at the Board of Selectmen meeting, because I wasn't at the last time.
Oh, tonight?
No, not tonight.
Me tonight?
Yeah,
They are meeting
Oh, you mean
tonight.
when they do our recommendations?
when we make our recommendation. So I'd like to be there,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to be on the Cape January 10th to February 13th. So.
On a side note to some of this is, have they determined a Manikey's reuse committee yet? And is that something we want to look at too, as far as maybe
Manikey's,
things that could be, maybe an event venue or other economic driven uses of that facility besides maybe where everybody thinks it's going as housing.
well, much like Pete serving on this committee as planning board member, I think we should probably suggest that a member of the CEDC is appointed to the Mattakese redevelopment committee.
So I think there's some
Good idea.
potential there to do,
Good idea.
whether it's shared space or event venue, or I think that there's a lot of potential for that building that could draw,
Not just the building, it's
without
Whole field.
70 acres.
right, and then it's probably gonna be ME Small School added on, in the next decade too, so that whole property also.
Karen, have they moved at all to appoint anyone?
Well,
Have
aren't they-
they charge for
I
that
don't think
committee?
I've seen a charge.
Aren't they doing a consultant study first, right? Did I see that?
They secured funding, but,
Right.
um,
Wasn't it? Yeah, it was on one of the,
Because
yeah, they.
Bill said it
secured
at town
funding
meeting.
for the work,
right,
at the special town meeting,
Right.
but, I don't believe that a committee's been appointed yet, or
So
I haven't seen a charge.
just for clarification, so money's been approved and the administration's going to commission a study on what the best and highest use for that before the committee is.
I don't know that that's the
Sat-
case. I don't know that that's the case.
Okay, because
that's the way I understood it. And we didn't even have any input.
Right.
We didn't have any input. This committee didn't have any input on helping bite the RFP, or at least getting a peek at the RFP.
I don't
Have you done
know
that?
that there's an RFP written yet.
Okay,
so-
all right. So we still could get a chance to do that then. right? So.
it seems like cart before the horse, though, doesn't, I mean, shouldn't the committee be charged with exactly what we're doing in terms of,
That's
Spitballing
that's how the
ideas for the-
Drive-in reuse committee started. right?
Mhm.
There was
Right.
10 of us and what are we gonna do with it? 5 years later, here we are. 6 years later.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a,
Finally figured it out.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
No, it is gonna be nice.
Things take a while.
Mhm.
All right, so threw a lot of stuff on the table at you guys. Sorry for all that, but I had to get it out there. We need to.
So it sounds like you guys have a list of things that you've talked about before. So I'm trying to figure out. Besides broadband, and then when you said green hotel.
hospitality.
Yep. What else is on the list? Like. Cause I feel like there is a list and we're like talking around
The list.
the list.
Okay.
Without. Like, this is a,
I think we worked
There
on
is
this
last
last,
year's work plan
we
somewhere?
had, we had a survey that we sent around to everyone. Can you call that? And we,
No,
no, not, okay, all right.
but yeah, I mean, there was, the wayfinding was part of it. Some of the stuff that we received in applications for physical improvement,
Yes,
we deferred, and some of it we liked and some of it we didn't, because we thought that we had bigger plans around potentially collaboration to promote some,
The signs and stuff.
some changes with the recreation plan. That we could get behind and support with some resources.
Right,
to
right.
implement Portions of that master plan.
Right, right. Right,
There's a lot that, you're absolutely right. We've already got a work plan. It's just a matter of distilling it
Mhm.
for 2024.
Right, and like, and Steve said, you know, what can we do in the next year? What can we do in the next 2 years? Is let's maybe set some short-term and long-term goals as far as, you know,
How is that most easily discernible? Is that going through the minutes?
I think you could go through the minutes. Could look back at last year, you could look at the annual report. I don't, because you asked, was there a work plan? I think the annual report
Okay.
would be a good first place to look. I mean, we have the note from tonight, we have, you know, it's the minutes.
Is
You're
there
right.
anything glaring that we haven't mentioned tonight that you can recall?
Not that I recall.
So what's the project we think we can do in a year?
yeah, and what do we mean by doing it? Is it from start to finish, or is it just submitting an application for grant award, getting the grant award and then starting it? Yeah, I guess you're right, you gotta flesh that out a little bit.
Well, Maria's storefront program was ready to go.
Yeah.
All we needed to do was fund it. We had the locations mapped. Everything was done.
Yep,
Just
yep.
the plug up bolt at the last minute.
Hey, Karen?
Yeah.
Is there money to be able to fund somebody to help you screen those vacant storefront applications?
How do you mean a part-time person?
Yeah, I was gonna say just shy of having to put a part-time person on the books, but yeah, somebody to help
So-
you implement that program if somehow we were allowed to proceed with it.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to look back at your materials and see what all it would entail. I mean, and I'm hopeful that we move forward with the economic development position. And then have someone in-house who's familiar and understand, you know, has a good, more in-depth understanding of everything for continuity.
That person's not
Can I-
gonna be on until
Yeah.
April.
Can I say something in your defense on that, though?
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is, I think, what Maria's talking about, we're all talking about, is work that's going to be done in conjunction with Karen, I think. This is just me. You could disagree with me. I think that ED person, whatever that person comes on board, that's gonna be on the Bill's wing. Right? So, and we're not gonna get any time from that person whatsoever. So to help Karen, I foresee us doing some consultant work, you know, hiring a person that can augment some of her work that she can't do day to day. That's just me.
Yeah,
So-
and my point is that, we need to see how this unfolds for the responsibilities. Because I still think the committee, the Economic Development Committee should be working with the economic development staff.
And that's how we thought it was going the last
Right.
time. That person got gobbled up on every 9 other different projects that weren't
Mhm.
all necessarily economic development.
I mean, we're finding time to do mostly administrative kind of things.
I know.
Right? And so, once the grants are all awarded, we'll put together the contracts and get that going and follow up with people. We have to process the bills and that type of thing. So there's a big difference, and I think this is part of our conversation.
Mhm.
There's, a lot of different skill sets required to meet the needs of this committee's support.
In a lot more staff time required.
As a stopgap though, we did also discuss shifting more responsibility onto the chamber for lots of reasons, that this is continuity right? Their level of expertise, their ability to coordinate multiple projects, right? That for various just different levels of activities, right? Remind me again, Karen, that contract revision is what?
That contract's complete, so I think that something like the vacant storefront, you know, if we just call it support for the program, I think that that's outside the scope. And there's, you know, anything that's handling money we're not going to delegate that outside of the town, because we need to deal with our own finance department
The chambers.
on that type.
No,
Chambers.
no, it was for
Yeah.
for them to do an evaluation of the applications, discern the level of completeness, make a recommendation among the various applicants, and then present that to this group.
Yeah, that's not part of their current contract, Maria. And I think that would be, it would be important to get the chamber's feedback on that type of scope of work. I don't know that they would be interested or not.
I think they would, but okay. Let's not forget that we have them as a ready resource, and we should consider them as an alternative until such time as the town can get fully staffed. Guys, I need to jump off. Hope you don't mind, but I'm about to have a coughing jag, so
I hope you feel better.
You're feeling better.
thank you so much.
Bye.
I think if we open up that program, we're not gonna get inundated.
What?
We're gonna be able to deal with it just like we've dealt with the tourism fund. We're gonna get 10 applications at the most,
Yeah, and it's
storefront owners.
we limited to like 3 a year, like,
Right,
it was a small amount that the state was gonna do. I think it was what, 2 or 3, I think, right?
yes.
Okay. Just bear in mind that I don't disagree with anything that you guys are saying. But there will come a point that we hand off all that work to someone else administratively, right? And as I see things right now, you need at least 20 hours, maybe less, to help us on a specific grant. All right, here's the thing. Let me say this. Why don't a couple of us get together, and I'll volunteer as one. Whoever else wants to join me, to develop a short list of projects that we can work on, okay, with timelines on them, that we can present to the board. This is what this group would like to work on, in addition to some of the things that Bill talked about. And here's what we want your blessing to do that from the board, but also to the administration. And then we can assign some tentative staff time to that, what we think it would be, along with a recommendation on what it costs to fund that time, that staff time. That makes sense? Yes? No?
Yeah, I mean, I for one, if it takes us putting in a little extra work to get some of these balls rolling, I'm not reluctant to put in
I know.
extra work
I
to get the
agree.
balls rolling.
Right.
Right. Even if it's even if it's going into someone else's sandbox for a quick visit,
Right.
just a quick
I don't
visit.
follow.
Like writing the grant and presenting it to you, and you load it into the one stop and hit send.
I think you're right on board with that. I just think at some point, as far as following up after the grant, implementation of the grant. Is that something that we're gonna get involved into? I mean, we can do that to a certain extent. But other times it may have to involve some staff from the town to do that.
You're talking about a problem that we are not even allowed to have yet.
Well, I'm just trying to,
Problem.
people might throw that back at us. Well, who's gonna staff this? Who's gonna do it? And we're gonna say, we're gonna write the grant. And I don't have a problem with that. Not whatsoever, because I think you're right. There's enough talent around here that we could write a grant. It's to follow up after that grant. Now, some of that's follow-up we can do, certainly.
So, I mean, we have the economic development projects line item, which I would think that we could, whether it's funding a consultant or maybe
Right.
even just throwing 20 hours overtime at maybe one of Karen's staff folks that might want some overtime that could process some of this stuff. We may have we may have some in-house options that we may be able to do something like that. I think we have the funding to do it.
Right.
You definitely have funding. I just gonna say, like, with regards to staff time. kind of, and identifying how much staff time something is gonna take. It's important to consult with staff, because we're gonna be the ones that know how to do. Or are gonna have to figure out what it is you wanna do. And then it's a matter of administration. Because, you know, the town administrator works for the Board of Selectmen. Staff works for the town administrator.
Mhm.
And so that's the line of command. And
Yeah, that's why I was saying what I said a while ago, that we need some clarity from the Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen.
Yeah.
Back to the administration, back to this, 'cause
Yep.
we feel like we're right in the middle right now.
understand,
Wandering around. so-
understand. I don't think you're the only one.
Right.
You know, that there's lots of good ideas that,
So my,
Come on.
my simple way of thinking of this is, we come up with a short list of projects that we think we can do within 12 to 16 months, maybe 24 months. That we want to go after some funding resources on this, that we think if we need some staff time, we come up with a dollar, we come up with the amount of time and the dollar amount to fund that staff time. And this is what it's gonna take to get the projects done. Get the blessing from the Board of Selectmen, the board says you're off and running, well, we say. We need that to the administration, they need to know that. So that we don't get stopped and blocked like we did the last time on a project that we wanted to submit. It's not gonna go anywhere, so we're all on the same page, we all agree this is what we're gonna do. For our plan for the next 12 to 24 months, consistent with what. Oh, it's called out in the charge and consistent with any tieback plans that have been done. In the town, like the signage program that the lady from the Conservation Commission got funding for, those type of things. Make sense? Yes, no?
Yeah, I mean, we gotta be careful about the precedent that we set too, though. I mean, if we're funding staff time,
We're doing that now.
Right, I mean, we used to pay, you know, the economic coordinator, we used to pay what, like
it was 50%.
50% of it, which we haven't paid this last year because.
Right.
They haven't filled the position, so like next year, that'll,
in
I'm
terms of,
assuming that's gonna go.
oh,
But
okay,
in funding staff time, I mean, and to Joe's point though, too, and you know, is. You know, not everybody's looking for overtime,
Oh,
unfortunately,
yeah, yeah.
you know, so.
Here's a simple question. If you can't answer it, I can understand. We get going on this signage. RFP gets out there, put out there. Who's gonna administrate? it? Who's gonna
Who's
administer?
gonna
that?
put it out there?
Yeah, let's see. This is the whole thing. So that's why we gotta come up with a list. Here's what the list is. Here's what we need for funding. Here's what we recommend for funding. That's how we achieve it. Precedence has already been set. We've funded staff people in the past. So.
Right.
I mean, if I'm sitting on the board, that's what I'd be looking for. How are you gonna do this? What do you wanna do? How are you gonna do it? So.
I think the update on the economic development coordinator or whatever her name is super important. Because you can't really, otherwise you're guessing what is gonna happen. So,
I don't disagree, but I think I know where that's headed. I think that person's gonna be devoted to Bill 100. And like I said, I'm not arguing with that. I think Bill needs to get those projects underway and get them going, because that infrastructure is gonna be the project for the town. That's why this committee needs something else to do. Keep our focus and our goals and efforts going forward, so.
we need a hobby.
This is our hobby. All right, so. As I said a moment ago, I'll offer myself up to work on the list if anyone else wants to help me.
subcommittee, not a quorum.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I'll help.
Okay.
Don't hold your hands.
4. Nope. Three.
Why don't we all just
Three.
start sending projects in?
Or you can do that. Just send your list.
Why don't we just send in
Well,
projects?
Danielle, I feel like you and I've met a lot.
I feel like you and I
Why
have
not
met a
Danielle?
lot.
I'm volunteering her as tribute.
Me too.
I'll do that.
what are we doing?
Should Danielle
help
He's gonna work with you.
All right, good. Fantastic.
Maria's got a list to start with. Given 73 ideas tonight.
Now, when do we want to
Buckets.
So if we have a meeting sometime with the Board of Selectmen in January, they're gonna want to see this in advance, so we need to get our act together before that, which means we probably ought to meet sometime.
That was
next
that
month.
second agenda item for December, right? Or no?
Yeah, December 12th.
Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the second agenda item on December 12th?
It is now.
Had, wow, that's a bunch of pages ago. How did that happen? Budget? No, no, no. It was the budget allocation and
Tourism.
the special events, the calendar 25 special event. Your idea was to consolidate all these ideas onto one page to come up with a set of policies. Was the way I interpreted what you were saying.
It's a budget allocation and this kind of go hand in hand, I think.
Does.
Because we may want to
Yeah,
Yep.
move some. put
Well, we had
more-
talked
more or
about that
less in
too.
Different buckets
yeah, and even make it a new bucket.
or a new bucket.
It's a,
All right, so we'll have a meeting prior, just you and I, is that?
Sounds good.
Okay, and then we'll talk about that on the 12th. Come up with a short list that we can prepare for the Board of Selectmen for its meeting sometime in June.
Yeah, and I'll try to find out what the schedule is because
yes.
I don't know. Making, that's 22.
What do you need? I have my calendar right up here.
I don't think they will meet. My guess is that they don't usually meet on holiday weeks. So I think the 2nd would not be a meeting date, so 2nd, and then it would be the 9th,
Which I
and
could
then
make-
you're out of town,
Which I could make the 9th.
right? But I don't, all that said, we don't know what's on the
And it's
the
not,
schedule.
they're not gonna hold a meeting for me, so whatever I
Right.
just don't want them. I hate to miss another one, that's all, but.
I'll,
It's not the-
All right,
Could say what you want in
it's
this.
a good time to get you out,
No holidays that week, and they
I am
wouldn't
good
have met for two.
Any day that's
3
not
weeks.
Wednesday.
any day that's not Wednesday,
We
okay?
met that week or that week.
All right, why don't you shoot me some stuff for Thursday? And then we can talk about it. All right, cool. I want to get it done this week if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
when is the last select board meeting? And
when?
I'm sorry, when is the
This month?
meeting in January is?
I don't have
she doesn't
the,
have the.
I don't have the
But you said something
calendar.
about the calendar, not meeting on a holiday.
They generally, so, and that's, I'm just gonna, you know. They generally don't meet on holiday weeks. So when there's a Monday holiday, which in this case will be January 1st.
And then
The 2nd is a likely not a meeting.
probably
Then I would guess the 9th, and then I bet you the next Monday, the
Yeah,
16th
one's a
would be
Monday.
That's gonna be a-
Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I think January is usually like 2nd and 4th.
yeah, probably 2nd and 4th.
Yep,
And then February, you run into President's Day.
probably the 9th and 23rd. Although there's 5 weeks in
Steve,
January.
you
so
know,
maybe
one,
the 9th
one,
or
I
23rd.
don't. You know, there's always Zoom.
Yeah.
Well,
I know, I just hate,
I know,
you know, the book, you know, that you just can't get it over to Zoom.
it's not the same,
Right. So,
but
if it has
it's
to come down
something
to
to
that-
think about.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go,
Well, I know you'll, so you,
just gonna bring my popcorn.
this, load it up, load them up for bear, right? Maybe,
I don't know this, I'll be doing that, but. See how it unfolds.
yeah. All right, well, thanks. Thank you for that all tonight, folks, and item number 3 then is committee member items. We pretty much done staff updates.
I think we're good. I think we're good. Gonna work on the calendar and we are making progress on minutes.
I was
I'll
gonna ask you,
definitely,
what's going on with the
I'll
minutes?
definitely have some minutes. We are trying a new,
Tell us about that a little bit.
it's very cool.
AI
A,
transcriber.
It's a AI transcriber. And then Don, you know, I'm lucky because Don Marie is very experienced with minutes.
Mhm.
And so she can basically take, you know, 2 hours of discussion here is probably 40, 50 pages of narrative. and it's verbatim. And Don Marie can put it down to 4,
Yeah.
4 or 5, yeah.
Without the AI,
So if I say hi, Don Marie, she's
With-
with that.
Well, no, so the process is pretty interesting. So you send the video of the meeting and you get a transcription. You watch, you can watch some of it, you see the transcription. It will start to identify voices so that it knows when Joe Manning's talking, Courtney, Danielle, whoever. And that's all identified. It, if it's not always perfect, so it's
Yeah,
pretty
but-
cool. It comes with timestamps, so you can go back to, an hour 42
When you-
and see who said what and go, did I get that right? And put it together, but it's nice because you can read it, because if if I could sit down tomorrow and do minutes, I could do it pretty quickly. But it's probably not the best use of my time either
Mhm.
to do
So you-
minutes.
you-
And but I take notes.
so she does minutes
Those are
for
helpful.
this committee and what else?
She's been doing it, fitting it in. CPC,
Yeah.
Community Preservation
Yeah.
Committee.
Does she do planning board and?
No. But we're looking at it. It's an issue because staffing is generally soup to nuts. And you do a lot of work
Yeah.
for at all ends of the skill spectrum.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And we weren't in that round of part-time hires they were doing? For minute takers, were they gonna?
I don't think that
They
they have
never did
enough
it?
yet. I don't think they have enough yet.
Okay. Minutes, we get that. Motion
So
to,
I'll have minutes for you next week,
okay,
at least 2 sets.
not next week, week after, right?
Yeah.
Say today. All right, cool.
Steve,
Scary.
if you, Aaron, send out when you're gonna meet with Danielle so that we can get you our thoughts for your meeting with Danielle.
What I was just gonna do is have her send me some information.
Do you want,
And
do
just-
you want, so can I make a suggestion?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
I think that everybody should send to me only. Any
Okay.
thoughts that you have on the work plan,
Okay,
and I can put them all together and I'll send them to Danielle and Steve.
perfect. Then we,
And you guys just let me know when you're gonna meet. So. Do you think you're gonna meet before December
Merry
5th?
Christmas.
all right, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Aw,
I know what this is.
thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Keeping this.
Oh, you
did you
got-
autograph it for
You
you?
don't have
She
it?
give you
No,
a
I hope
paw print?
so.
Did you get a paw print in the,
So just for everybody who's interested, too, if you want to, see, I know this is your commercial, but Taylor Bray Farm in action. This weekend is the
Holidays?
the holiday festival. I saw it on the high school. Information,
Say that
but
again?
Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday.
They have their holiday festival and they have stuff for sale, including calendars, but. Other Taylor Bray Farm stuff, they have
Okay, I caught,
cakes and that kind of thing, and they also sell holiday greens.
I need one of these guys to eat the bittersweet of my house.
The girls.
Yeah.
all right, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
We need a roll call.
I need a second, you need
Second,
Yeah.
yes.
I-
Joe,
Joe Gibbs, aye.
Here's that guy. Joe Manning, aye.
Courtney Butler, aye.
Steve O'Neill, aye. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Pete, hope everything's going okay?
Yeah.
Good. Good to see you.